It was a great book. I thought every man should read it because there's so many things that happen that we don't quite understand. And when it comes to these personal types of things, women, obviously, they're so complex, they don't know how to explain it. Men don't know how to ask the right questions. And the trouble is that men then start, if something's not happening in the bedroom or if something changes for some reason, he doesn't understand what's going on. And he starts wondering, what am I doing wrong? What did I do differently? Start trying to think back to when we first got together, are there things that I did differently that really turned her on or excited her, or whatever the case may be. And so it's really tough on everybody. And I think that one of the biggest parts of your book was communicate, communicate, communicate. And that's imperative, I think. And even when you're communicating, it's tough sometimes, I think, because it still is very complex because you're still trying to figure out what's really going on. And the man, he can feel lonely or insecure, or is she having an affair? Is she interested in somebody else now? When she's over there scrambling, trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And, so I think it's a good idea for men to read the book because it really gives some insight into what's going on. And I think they can be a lot more supportive of her and the changes, and also be a little more patient and try to kind of help her through whatever she's going through, whether that's going to counseling or whatever else, just talking, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. So, and of those obstacles, you mentioned that when we talked before, and I'm going to say why we talked. We talked before because your wife was away.
Right.
You picked up her book.
Right.
When she was off taking care of her mother who was getting surgery or was hospitalized. And you picked up her book and you didn't know whether it was okay or not to read it. You were kind of
right.
Whether it was okay. And
right.
then when she came home, you told her you had read it and you started giving her feedback. And she said, I think you ought to call Susan and give her feedback. So I'm just putting a little context around that. So you said that you also read about some obstacles that was new information for you.
Right. Yeah. Some of the things, I knew that women, when they go through menopause and things like that, they often experience dryness after and things like that, and that starts changing. But what I didn't know is that the walls thin and that it can cause pain. And so I didn't quite understand. I didn't know that before. That was definitely something I didn't know. And so that was one thing.
And as a guy, how does that affect you, knowing that the walls get thin and that can be pain? There can be pain.
Well, the first thought is, okay, what do we do about it? How do we fix this? That's the guy thing, we got to fix it, right? So, you think, okay, more lubrication and that kind of thing. And also communicating, okay, does this hurt? Is this a good position? Is this, should I tweak this way? Just being kind of perceptive, not only because she might not want to say it, because, there's that painful pleasure too, where it feels really good, but at the same time, it kind of hurts and you may not be able to walk for 2 days, but I don't want you to stop kind of thing too. So it's communicating and finding that balance as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Nicely said. Yeah. Okay. You changed me when you gave me that feedback, because I hadn't thought about this being a book for men. I had completely targeted women. So I'm more curious about your male response to it now, because you're educating me about what's inside the male brain. So I appreciate that.
Sure, absolutely. One of the main things, I'm good at communicating, I think, and at this age, living, as long as I have, which isn't a long time, but you tend to become more aware. And I always knew that women were complex, but in talking to Pauline and getting to know Pauline and explaining different things, the communications, the different thought processes that go on, the reactions to the body. I even knew that women, if they get stressed out, can miss a period and think that they're pregnant. I knew that, but looking through this book and seeing all the different complex things, there's just no simple way to say, okay, across the board, women should do this in order to feel better or to deal with these different things, because they're so complex. And that complexity was very eye-opening. I knew it, but seeing it in your writing was really good as well. Because the women that are going through these things, they don't want to, it's not their choice to be having to deal with that and understand it and then trying to explain it to their man. I mean, wow. So that's good and eye-opening.
Yeah, terrific. Part of me knows, and you've changed this, you're talking to me, change this. Often when we talk about sexual problems to men, and I've done classes for men, they do want to know how they can help. That's our first response. How can we help? We really are lined up to help. And also, I've always thought that there was a cringe too about, they don't want sex to hurt their, whenever they hear about sexual pain or something like that, there's a cringe that they have because they don't want a woman to have bad experiences related to their sexuality. And so I've been somewhat, in a way, thinking of not having men read this book because it is all about the obstacles that women have to get around, and those obstacles are very real.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking that those obstacles men in a way don't want to hear about or that make them cringe. So I appreciate I do know that men like to fix things. So that's what you're telling me first. Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Tell me about the problems. Yes. I can be with your complexity and I can help.
Right. And that's where you also have to rely on the man, I think, and your communication. It keeps going back to that. And what can I do? How does this feel? What do you feel like during the day? Explain it. And there's ups and downs. It could be immediate depression, and then going from immediate depression into, okay, everything's good. I'm at a good place. And then one little thing happens. And so it is so complex that, yeah, a lot of times we men, we're like, figure it out, because I don't know what to do. And it's frustrating for the man too, because he wants to help, but I don't know what to say. I don't know how I can help you, other than, going to get some therapy or whatever. And then the trouble is that men don't talk about these things often with each other. And so there's no communication between men on how they dealt with their wives or their mates going through these things either. So it's like, because the wives, and, it's kind of one of the man rules. The wives are off limits. We don't talk about our wives, And so, you just kind of work through it. Is that helpful?
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Very much. Yeah. Thank you. You're putting great words to your interior workings. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you said something the other day about how important it was when Pauline would touch you or do those little things, and how that part of the book, you really liked that being in print, those things, that little wink or that little suggestion.
Yes.
And I'd love to hear just.
Absolutely. I wrote down some more thoughts on that. Let's see. Excuse me. Okay.
I was telling him to read it. And
she's coaching me on how to. Yeah. This. Right. Absolutely. Spicing things up in just the simplest of ways. You say you're, I think I use the example of, say you go to the movies or something and you're standing in line waiting for the movie, just a touch while you're in line, or just a hello, just a touch in a place in a public place, least expected, but where nobody can see. I'm not talking about a full-on grope, but just a hey, thinking about you. I mean, that's what creates fantasies. That's what creates things that you want to do more. That's what spices things up, you know? And the other thing is that if you think about, you know, the fact that number one, your man loves you to death, right? He thinks you're attractive more so than probably you do, right? He loves you. He wants to be with you. He wants to make love with you. He wants all those things with you. Man, take advantage of it. Do you know how much power that gives you? It really does. And the thing is that, you know, in the book, we talked about, you talked about being ladylike, you know, and yeah, actually, um, oh, my notes. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
Yes.
you're
If,
perfect. That's great.
if your man is instigating a connection, he finds you sexy, attractive, beautiful, and by all means fun to be with. Okay, that's a big thing. If it is being fun, just being fun and doing those little things, and he wants to share that with you. Okay, and he does. Think about it. He desires you in his core. Okay, as part of his core. I mean, that's his center. Okay, and think about. I mean, isn't that hot for you to know?
Great, Brian. It
You
is
know,
so great. I love the way you're articulating it. It is so great. You've said it really well.
and to have this effect on him. Think what you can do with that. You know, and think of what when he's like looking at you going, wow, she's really hot. Think of that core and the reaction it's having on him, and you're just being yourself. Think of what you can do with that. You can have a lot of fun with that. And I liked how you said be open to the new, and um, own that you want his attention, and keep the dance going. You talked about the dance or the wink. Keep that dance going, but dance really close. You know, dance really close. I mean, he just loves that. I mean, seriously, and it's okay to be blatant. You're together. It doesn't make you a slut or a hooker or any of that. It makes you freaking hot. Be blatant. Now, guys don't speak chick, and I've said this to Pauline. We don't speak chick, so we don't get hints all that often, and then we feel bad when we find out we missed a hint because so you got to be blatant about it. And you know we do try, we men, we do try to understand that, but those little things, a touch, a squeeze, a look from across the room, a wink from across the room. Love that wink thing, because that's like, hey, when you're at a party or something and you're out mingling or whatever, and suddenly you lock eyes across the room. It's just like, hey, you know, it's really good stuff, and it really stirs things up. And if you do something like that and you see his reaction, and you think about the effect that you're having on him, that could possibly make some motion in you as well.
Mhm. Awesome. Just terrific. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So just Pauline, do you have any comments that you, as listening?
I was thrilled when Brian picked up the book and I came home from my trip with my mom, and he said, I read it. Do you mind? And I don't know how I was going to tell you about it. And I thought, wow, that is so amazing, because I was going to take the book with me, and I'm really glad I didn't take it with me. I'm really glad he did pick it up and read it. I think it's wonderful that Brian has an open communication style, and I think a lot of men do. I haven't read the book yet. I'm excited about it. I can't wait, because I know it's going to be fantastic. but I've learned a lot listening to him about his perception of what was in the book. And I do know that the guys don't really talk a lot about in the bedroom sorts of things with each other. You know, women might do that a little bit more. Men don't tend to do that. And he just confirmed that. So I think it's important that there's a resource for them, that they can also pick up your book or books like that and say, wow, there's something of value in here. And you told me, I think the thing that caught my attention was he summarized it by saying it was amazing and every man should pick up this book and read it. And I said, you need to call Susan and talk to her about what your experience with the book was. So I'm really glad I left it behind that one moment.
This is really fascinating. I am too. There was, Brian, when you were talking, there was a point I really got goosebumps. And it's when you said, and it's the point I keep trying to make with women, when you said, you're just being yourself and this guy crazy over in love with you.
Yeah.
And trying to get women to know that they're already it. And this, I have to say, Paul Richards has been supporting this notion since, and for all the time that I've known him. And it's really into my, into my work, but it's so fundamental. And a lot of my work is women relating to their own femininity. We're kind of retrieving their relationship to their own femininity so they then can share it. They can then be available. They are already it, and they can then be available. When you said that, so coming from a male, when you said that as black and white fact, it was just a wonderful validation from a male point of view of what we're trying to do is get women to relate to their feminine core. So they then, and also relax, so they can relate to it, relax, and not have physical, energetic, or psychological barriers or obstacles. And then magic starts.
That's right. Absolutely.
Then the availability and the magic starts. So yeah,
that's so good that you say that, because there was something else that I wrote down, is that that feminine essence is just so incredibly amazing. I mean, a man can't get that anywhere else than from a woman. And that essence, is what attracted him probably in the very first place. And you've got it. We know you've got it. And it's okay to really get in touch with that. You don't have to be foo-foo or nothing. Just be yourself and be that feminine. Go with that, dress up in that pretty dress, or put that little flower in your hair, or be the aesthetic woman that we know you are and can be. It's those little tiny things that just are like, and it makes a man proud to walk down the street with his wife or his girlfriend or his mate when she's like really just very feminine. And she could be in a pair of jeans and old tennis shoes and a t-shirt and her hair up in a little chongo thing and whatever, and yet she's totally feminine. That's just freaking hot,
Yeah.
And we love that.
Yeah. Right. And I'm going to go just a little, I'm just going to push it just a little bit further. And then what happens is you get closer.
Right. That's right.
I mean, that's what you want to have happen. There's attraction and you get closer.
That's right.
The thing is, then you're open to each other. There is charge, and then you're available. And
absolutely.
And then something else and new and wonderful happens.
Yes.
Yes.
And it can start with just a conversation.
Yeah.
And we all get caught up in work and other things. But when suddenly in the middle of it, like, some of the things you said in your book, if you're able to put that aside somehow, or turn that off, or go into that aesthetic bedroom that you've set up for that, so that you're away from everything else where you can relax. And if you go in there and you leave everything else at the door, and the man walks in there and he sees you just amongst all that aesthetic stuff, you're part of the beauty, and it just creates, like you said, it creates something starts happening there. And it's like,
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else you want to say, either of you? Thank you.
Do you mind if I take a second and read through my notes real quick?
And not at all.
Okay. I loved your story about the bicycle and how you related it to the extraordinary experiences and how you led into what are the possibilities of that at the beginning.
Cool.
Um,
That's very cool.
oh yeah, you know, you gave such good positive messages in there, and you know, it's a message of like hope. And I mean, you know, what I wrote down here is that women are normal and they're not crazy. They're not crazy. These things are really happening, and they're not alone. They're not alone. The man wants to help. He just doesn't have any clue where to begin. So she should hand him your book. You know? Let's see. And don't, if you're, oh, that spontaneous desire, okay? Don't talk yourself out of it. Go with it. Don't say, you know, if you're feeling that spontaneous desire, don't say like, oh, you know, but I got to do this, or you know, but I can't respond to that right now because I got to do that. No, 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 no. Go with it. Run with it. He wants you to, you know. Let's see. And I'm sorry about all the social conditioning. I mean, you know, it just really messes with, I think, everybody's brain a little bit. But you know, there's that old saying: a man wants his wife to be a lady on the street, a lady on the streets, and a whore in the sheets, or something like that. Yeah, you know, and that's very ladylike. Um, and he knows you're supposed to be ladylike. He understands that. And let's see. Yeah, went through all that. Good. Just one more thing here. Yeah. And yeah, it's really important that if you have to turn down, if he's trying to connect with you and it's just not going to work for you at that moment, and you have to say no, definitely say, hey, you know what? Not tonight, but I'm looking forward to tomorrow morning or something, or Saturday morning, just like you said in your book, and keep that date. That's really important because that's got him kind of thinking ahead of time and looking forward to that. And that's kind of slowly building in him too as the time draws near to that. And so, you know, keep that, because that's not a, it's disappointing when that doesn't come through after you set that date. Let's see. I think that's pretty much the bedroom staging, spicing it up. That creates new things. And yeah, when something's working for you, don't keep it to yourself. Tell us to do more of that, but be blatant about it. You got to tell us. You got to say, hey, what you're doing right now really feels amazing. Whatever you do, don't stop. Don't say, hey, that feels kind of good. No, tell him.
You would get it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
And
it's speaking to males having a different language.
Right.
You know, that direct communication with males versus women who communicate more peripherally. You know, we can process a lot of different things, but Brian and I have found that when I communicate 1, 2, 3 with him, he gets it. Like, hey, Brian, will you do X, Y, and Z?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, all he has to do is say, hey, whatever, it seems like something's not happening, boom, and I'm on it. So it's a different language that we have, the genders. And so I think it's important for that direct communication to happen and for us to be comfortable with it. We women to be comfortable with being directive.
Yeah.
I don't know about other men. I know that Brian's a really open communicator, and I was really happy that he picked up the book. But you also mentioned that Susan's style of writing is really easy. I think you said you read it really quickly.
Yeah, it was a fairly quick read. The way you have it in small sections was brilliant, because you can put it down, like if you've got something else to do, you can get to, okay, you can look ahead and say, okay, I can read to there, and then I have to take a break. I got to go back to work, or I got to do, other things. Right, exactly. so yeah, that was really good. Another thing that I put down here is to play games. Okay, play games. Okay, and that could mean like the role playing thing, like you mentioned in your book. What do you want to see him in? A tool belt? Would you like to see him in a kilt? What would
Wait, sorry, my husband just walked in.
Oh, hey, Noel.
We're just saying, shh, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But would you like to see him in a kilt with a really nice like sweater on and a beret? Or would you like to see him walking with a saxophone in the kilt? I mean, you know, and
Yeah.
make it safe for him to do that, because I'll tell you what, not every man is going to want to wear a kilt, and not every man who's like a banker frequents a tool belt. You know, so make it safe in the sense of, look, it's just you and I, let's have fun with this, you know.
Sounds great. I've seen my husband in a kilt and I like it. Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, it's those kind of things. Let your mind go and communicate. Be sure that communication is there. That's so important. And all your advice about the different possible medications and things that you may be lacking, and that sort of thing is really important too.
Yeah.
Brian, I can't thank you enough for giving me the internal view of the mail with such enthusiasm and clarity.
Absolutely.
It was really appreciated. I'm so glad you picked up that book, and so
Yeah.
glad you mentioned it to Pauline. And Pauline, I'm so glad you got him to call me, because it gave me a charge and I really appreciate it. And
Good.
it's giving me a new market.
Well, awesome. And Susan, if anything comes up, if you have any other questions or anything and you want some open feedback, I'm happy to help you in any way I can. No
Awesome.
problem. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right. Bye, Krista. Bye. Take care.
Okay. Bye, you guys.